I'm Richard Osborne with Pickens County. Ethan Calhoun is our coordinator. He is a state employee out of Rome with the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission. And you see in front of you the agenda for what we're going to be talking about, which is generally more information about what makes up the comprehensive plan. And then we want to get specific to Pickens County because the role of Ethan and my role, we're not here to insert our thoughts. We're here to take notes, to coordinate, and then based on what Pickens County wants for unincorporated Pickens and what each of the cities and towns want for their jurisdiction, we're going to put it together into a comprehensive plan draft document. We're going to meet once every 2 months, so the next meeting of this stakeholders committee, which again, thank you very much for being a part of it, will be in August. We can talk about at the end of the meeting when it might be. One draft day and time is, again, meeting on a Tuesday at 6:30, Tuesday, August 22nd, or maybe the 21st, but if that doesn't work for everybody, then we can change it. So we're going to talk specifically about the survey for what Pickens and its cities are now. It was awesome that we got 734 responses. Ethan was a part of the team that recently completed the comprehensive plan for Haralson County. And if y'all know anything about that community west of Atlanta on the Alabama line, you know that it's got a pretty similar size population, different demographic, but really an outer suburb, standalone community, somewhat similar to Pickens. And in that case, the survey was filled out by 150 people in Haralson County, and we got 734 responses. So Ethan and I were very happy about that, and we got some really good results. So we'll go over that. We'll talk about some data that we have for Pickens County currently, forecast, which it's tough to forecast what will happen in terms of population numbers, demographics in terms of age, home values, things like that. But we'll talk about some of that. And I want to make sure, because in past comprehensive plans that I've worked on and other documents, I understand as a planning process, there's some people who love to speak out and give comments, and I can write them down. That's awesome. So if you want to do that in a meeting, that's cool. If you want to call me later, if you want to meet face to face, I'll be glad to do that. There's some people who just don't like to talk out loud, and so you'll see one of the documents I've placed in front of you is just a fill-in-the-blank form that talks about general important things in Pickens County and in the cities, such as parks and recreation, downtown improvements, topics that may be important to you that I may have missed. So it's just a rough, here's a few things. Please put your comments down on what you think the community is like now, how you think in the future things need to be changed, things need to be improved, and that will really help us a lot. So what Ethan has got now is, I'm glad the audio visual up, and I'll turn it over to Ethan.
Thank you, Richard. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. Been looking forward to working on this plan for a while. I grew up over in Murray County myself, so frequented Pickens quite a bit growing up. And so you guys got a great community here all together, and I think my purpose in being here is not to come here and tell you guys how you need to do everything. I'm sort of more, trying to gather what's going on and maybe try to direct energy and things like that, so that we can see, goals, figure out what the goals of Pickens County and the cities there within, and figure out some sort of a strategic way to obtain those, achieve those, and just to be, make Pickens County more successful, more competitive. As great as it is, we all try to keep improving, and obviously there's a lot of a lot of different facets that we're going to be looking at tonight. So don't get lost in all the in the great abyss. We're going to see a lot of different sort of information, and be a little intimidating at first, a lot of numbers and stuff like that. But we're going to try to breeze through that and not get too much into numbers and talk more about sort of qualitative stuff as well.
Excuse me, Ethan. I should have very briefly asked, if you would please just state your name and then your general, if you're interested in a certain city or just Pickens County as a whole, so that we'll have a better idea of who you are.
Yes, I'm Greg Warner. I'm an information technology specialist for a cell company. I work from home and also with the fire service. But, mainly just a private citizen.
Robert Willingham. Primary interest is in the unincorporated eastern part of the county, be it specifically Tate, east from there.
I'm Sandra Levens, and we just moved into Tate. We've been out in the Marble Hill community for about 20 years, so we're just interested in that community as a whole, the entire county, but as Chuck stated, specifically the Tate revitalization was something we're very interested in.
Know our interests. I've been living here in Big Canoe for 17 years, and we moved up here. Pretty much have been involved in the past in the county's infrastructure planning. That's one of my main interests, and the other is the environment, which I have a background in as well.
My name is Sonny Proctor. I'm a city councilman in Jasper. So my main interest is in Jasper, but also in the county as well.
Lonnie Waters, employee of the city of Jasper, do easements, right-of-ways, annexations, just general flunky, you might say.
I'm Ann Snavy. I'm the city council of Jasper, and I'm also interested in the city and Pickens as a whole.
Roy Dobbs, chief appraiser. I'm interested in every facet of this county from one end to the other. It's my job to keep up with it, take care of our GIS mapping, working with all parties involved to make sure that we've got a good informational system to rely on. And Sonny Proctor didn't tell you, but he's a heck of a good doctor. He fixed my Achilles tendon years ago. Thank you, Sonny.
I wish I could fix mine now. It's bothered me for 6 months.
I'm Tucker Green. I do public information, things of that nature with Pickens County government. So I'm really kind of interested in the county as a whole, but me particularly, I live on the west end of the county, Jerusalem area.
I'm Cheryl Sams. I'm a council member and the town manager for the town of Talking Rock. And I have an interest in the whole county because everything that happens outside of our little town affects us. So I'm interested in all of it.
And I am the same. I'm Sandy Thomas. I'm a resident in Bent Tree for 10 years, but I love this area. I love the county, and I'm just interested in finding out the progression of it.
My name is Tina Monahan. I'm the city manager of Nelson, Georgia. So my interest is in Nelson, but also the county as a whole.
I'm Ron Barnes. I work for Berkshire Hathaway in the real estate business. I'm interested in the county as a whole, and particularly from an economic development standpoint.
My name is Ben Loman. I've been here for 15 years, and I would love to see the Jasper Talking Rock area develop its park and recreation center.
I'm Roger Schultz. I live off of Cove Road, a self-employed business person, still work at my old age. Have been a resident for over 30 years and have a keen interest in seeing how we can consolidate services in the county to reduce overhead and be more effective in reaching out to the needs of the community.
Yes, sir.
I'm John Snavy, and I'm an interested citizen.
I'm Ralph Streeter. I am a small business owner-operator out of my home. Also an ambassador of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm interested in the whole county. It's all tied together as far as I'm concerned.
I'm Leslie Oob. My husband is the band director at the high school. And so we are interested in the sociology and the community and the families and the students and how the families all work together. And I'm also a landscape architect and land planner, and we live in Tate. So this is just kind of the thing that I enjoy.
I'm Larry Wilson, lived in Pickens County since 2000. And I'm also a member of Pickens Arts and Cultural Alliance. So my interest lies not only with the city of Jasper, but with Pickens County as a whole.
And I'm Amelia McIntyre, and I'm involved with Pickens Arts and Cultural Alliance. I hang out with Larry. So ditto on all he said. I live in the city, Jasper city limits, so that's kind of special to my heart. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you doing that as well. Great crowd of folks. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And got a good group of folks here, pretty diverse backgrounds, and pretty good mix in the county too. So glad to see that there's folks coming from sort of all the different corners. And that's very good, a good representation. So there's a couple of things in front of you there that's been passed out, a couple of pieces of paper, and one of those is going to say, I think it says 10-year update. It's got some red and black, it's all text. It should be a one-pager. That just gives you a basic breakdown of what we're doing, what this overall process is for those of you who haven't read the articles or anything yet about it, or maybe have a little foggy understanding of exactly what a comprehensive plan is. But these started to be promulgated by the state of Georgia, by the Department of Community Affairs, back in 1989 as part of the Georgia Planning Act in 1989. So it was around 1990 or so these plans started to first crank out. So Pickens County's had a comprehensive plan for a number of years now. And what we're doing is essentially updating an existing plan. And that paper you have in front of you is based off of, as soon as you get used to something in government, a particular process, it changes constantly. So what you see in front of you are basically the parameters of how we planned since 2014. That was the most recent sort of alteration to those standards that started back in 1989. And so you can see different parts of that. Basically what they did in 2014 was they just simplified the process for us a little bit so that we could do a little bit more qualitative work and a little less quantitative, so that we could reach out to the community and get more participation that way, make it just a little bit less bureaucratic. And also it allowed communities to focus on particular areas more than others. Because there's part of those, you'll see one of them says the transportation section. And some places that are what we call metropolitan areas, sort of like Atlanta, for instance, high population, large traffic, they do a transportation plan. And there's some other parts of that as well, that economic development for those communities that are what they call in the 3 economic tiers, tier 1 being lowest, I believe. And some of those are required to do that economic plan to stimulate economic growth. Others, you don't necessarily have to. So what we're going to do today is sort of try to figure out where it is we need to be focusing our energy on that piece of paper. What elements of that plan do we need to focus the most on? There's a couple of required elements. Obviously, there's zoning in the county and the cities, so we'll have to update the land use section. We'll dedicate an entire meeting to that. We'll talk about land use and commercial and residential and that sort of thing, where we want to see development sort of focused at, and all that stuff. And tonight, again, will be more of a broad umbrella. So again, just that paper in front of you is just something to look at to get an idea of the aspects of this plan. And it's also got sort of a loose timeline on there so that we can sort of keep track of where we're at in the process. And this is our first stakeholder meeting to get together and sort of start to work. So the next page on your table there is a sort of multi-page booklet. Now, it's got a lot of numbers, it's got a lot of charts, and it's got a lot of graphs in there. And some of those are friendlier than others, but all that data was derived from basically the 2010 census and the 2014-2015 American Community Survey. The census does about every 5 years or so. So some of this data you're going to see is from 2010, it's from 2014, 2015. So it's not brand new. So things are changing, Certainly, as we've all sort of noticed, the economy since then has sort of been picking up pretty gradually. So some of these numbers are changing, and when we get the results from the upcoming census, of course, that'll all be renewed. So as you're flipping through that, keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is this is data. It's not perfect, and it's also, it shouldn't be the only part of when you're looking at planning. It's just an aspect, sort of a way to look at 30,000 feet to see sort of trends and things like that, as opposed to try to hit specific numbers. So just to put that out there. So what we'll do now, I think, is I think, of course, your role as a stakeholder, I think, is very important. And so what is a stakeholder, and what will you guys be doing as the process goes on? So basically, we have to have these stakeholder meetings. The reason we have them is to get the community's input. So it's not just the local government planning for themselves, it's local government reaching out to the community, getting input from the community, figuring out where that focus needs to be, so they know what kind of projects and things like that need to be focused on the most. So basically today, as we start working through this stuff, and as we meet in future meetings, which we'll discuss at the end of this meeting to set a new time and date, is we hope you guys will keep coming back. We'll probably meet, Richard and I have already discussed it, to throw it out there, maybe on a bi-monthly basis, and that'll give, we won't meet too often, about an hour at a time, and just sort of hit specific topics as we go along, just so we can sort of figure out the direction that we're going. And so that's essentially your role in this process. So without further ado, we'll get into this presentation. We can sort of see some of these figures and talk a little bit about that survey Richard mentioned earlier that we got a really good response rate on. Okay, kind of a pop quiz here. I want to make this a little bit interactive. I don't just want to stand here and throw numbers because it's in the evening. I'm sure everybody, especially if you get a donut or two from over there on the snack bar, will fall asleep if I just stand up here and throw out numbers. So somebody, anybody got to guess, what was the population of Pickens County in 2014?
29,000.
C.
C. C. Going once, going twice. C. And that answer is C. 29,997 people. So basically, that was your hard population in 2014. And if we go next, let's see, Jasper's, a little over 3,700. Nelson, a little over 1,300. Dr. Rock, 65. All right, now if we look right here, we got a little of that census data I pulled out of that packet just to put apples to apples. Now just to see here over time, you see the population in 2014. If everybody looks there, you see 1990 is the red color, got 2000 in blue, and 2014 in gray. So you can sort of see a trend there. As you look at Pickens County on the far left, all grouped together, you can see Jasper. You see the same trend in Jasper. You see the same trend in Nelson. The numbers are smaller because the population is less, but the pattern is pretty similar. Population is increasing. And there are very, very few communities, especially here in northwest Georgia, that are not seeing the exact same trend, an increase in population. All right, so anybody got any speculation of what the population of Pickens County might be in 2020?
D.
B.
B, we got a B, we got a D. All right. Answer is D, 31,000. That is an approximation generated by the census information. So, so you're still increasing. Maybe not quite at the rate as we've seen in the past, especially in the 80s and the 90s, the big booms, but still on the increase.
Can we ask questions along the way? Or
Absolutely, please ask questions.
So the projections for population, can you give me a little more detail on how those projections are made relative to everything that we got going on, like 250,000 people, one step over the line? So.
Okay, so as far as you're talking about statistical analysis there, basically, how do they derive those numbers? Well, it's a system of, I'm sure, computer algorithms and all that stuff that takes you know, basically looks at the trends, because it takes, you know, I just went back to 1990. Obviously, census has that information going for a long time. So they're just sort of taking that together, averaging that together to figure out what is your per year increase based on that census data. Because there are other aspects, and I'm sure there are other systems out there. I know sometimes we use a system called ESRI, ArcGIS, and they have a business analyst online. And it's got a lot of these fancy algorithms that'll try to take other, you know, aspects that are going on besides just census data. You know, economic things, of course, and all that stuff, looking at other trends across the nation and the globe, and it will try to extrapolate data based on all of that. Now, again, you know, it's all a matter of estimation. So we can't say for sure. That figure you just saw there, say go 31,000, could be far more than that. You never know what might happen, especially with the Atlanta, as it increases, moves north, especially with Pickens County. You guys have a lot of natural resources. You got a lot of scenic places, and you got a lot of great communities here. So people are likely moving to Pickens County, and a lot of people are probably moving here as either, you know, people have vacation homes here, of course, second homes. Some people I've noticed it's a pretty good trend from what I understand. When people retire, you know, a lot of times people move to the beach or they move to the mountains. And so you guys got a lot of mountains, you got a lot of scenic areas. So depending on different trends and things like that can affect that from year to year.
So Cherokee County's not in our region, but a lot of the natives here or the residents here kind of compare what's going on here or what will be going on here to Cherokee County. Of course, that's, you know, 250,000 people down there. So that's why I have the question.
Okay,
I think
right.
it's important.
Right, and that certainly could be a heavy factor in how things go. But there's also logistical factors and, of course, geological factors and things like that.
Political will.
It's a big word.
Political will, how about that?
Okay, so, yes.
These projections out to 2050 seem to be significantly less than what projections I remember from 10 years ago.
Right, and those change. I know people who deal in specifically, I work also with the Regional Water Council, and projections to them are very important because it's how they project permitting and things like that. And it's funny because one year the projections 50 years out can vary from the next year. So when it comes to data like that, it can vary. What we might, that 2050 population projection 5 years from now may be an entirely different number based on what happens between now and then that could sort of, as we were saying, skew the data that they already have. All right, so looking up on the next piece here, looking at survey results. So we put the survey, we had a little over 700 people take the survey again, very good response. And we asked the question, how fast is Pickens growing in your opinion? Is it growing too slow, too fast, fast? Just right, kind of the, right in the middle, or are we growing too slow? So if we look up there at that chart, you can see that probably the largest chunk of the pie, it's kind of that orange beige color there, says growing too slow. You got probably the next largest says you're growing just right, neither too fast nor too slow, growing at a steady pace. And the others are pretty almost even, saying you're growing fast or too fast. So the question begs there, does Pickens County want to increase a lot of density? Is the small town environment, and that's where Pickens County and each city may have different opinions on this as well. So that is something to keep in mind, is that certain cities, certain aspects of the community may want to grow more than others. And that's what we want to get to the bottom of, whereas that was a very generalized statement. And as far as the survey is concerned, as far as producing data, it's very general. So we got to look at here, we've got 4 different communities, essentially governments here, that we need to look at. Each one may have a slight different aspect on that. If we want to grow more, do we want to sort of level off, maintain a small community, very low density, have a lot of natural space, or continue growing at a pretty steady rate. More jobs and things like that would, of course, stimulate that type of growth. So moving to the next question. Looking at median household income. Now, first of all, there's different ways of looking at income and economic trends. There's what they call per capita income, and there's median household income. And what median household income is kind of nice because it looks at sort of the average. It doesn't look at per capita. Takes basically all your population and all the money made or reported and divides that basically by the number of population to get an even number across the board. So median household income is looking at all the different wages and figuring out what's dead center of all those wages averaged. So if we look at median household income in Pickens County in 2014, anybody got any estimation of what the average household income was?
C.
Go with C. Go with C. Okay. 49,000. Answer is B, 50,000. So a little higher than C there. All right, median household income in northwest Georgia, that's our 15-county region, is 42,000, almost 43. So pretty good bit above the regional. And as far as the state's concerned, 49,000, so even above the state. So very good in that case. So that's not to say that there's not a large portion that may be making less than that and a large portion making more than that. That, of course, again, is the middle of the road, sort of average household income. Any questions regarding that? All right, so the next question. In 2010, how many households existed in Pickens County? C. Going with C again? All right. Answer is A, about 8,900 households. So you had between the years 2000 and 2010 about 2,300 approximately that were constructed during that time. Jasper had 1,400 recorded in 2010. Nelson 478. Walking Rock 47. All right. Any questions on households? Very good. All right, so the median age of Pickens County. So roughly, we're looking at the age distribution. What's about middle ground here? Are there, if there were, let's put it this way, people over 65 or so would cause that median age to be higher. If there were more people, 18 or under or so, that's going to pull that age back down. So this is sort of the ages averaged together to get an idea of sort of the age distribution. Any guys there? B. 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 All right. Absolutely. B. 41 years old. 42.1 years. So something interesting about that, or good to know as far as how that's relevant, is understanding the demographics of the area, specifically age is a big part of that. And one of the biggest parts of that is your workforce. Is there a large portion of are the folks in Pickens County and the cities within working? Are there more people? Is it more of a retired community, or are there a lot of youth that will be entering into the workforce or into the educational system? Lots of things to take into consideration, and so you're right in the middle of the road there. So a pretty good distribution. So when we asked the folks, a little over 700 people on the survey, to basically hit the block of their age, the largest portion was 35 to 54 years old, and that agrees with that earlier data. So you see you got a large portion of individuals. As a matter of fact, if you count the purple and the blue, that's essentially your workforce between a little bit of the green there as well. So you got a large portion of folks, at least the ones that took this survey, that that are in the workforce, or at least workforce age.
Ethan, before you leave there,
Yes, sir.
you go back one slide. When they're using the median age of the residents, are they looking at head of household or all residents?
All the ones that, in the census, where they put the age information in there. So if you've got a household with 3 individuals, 3 of the ages should be recorded in those 3 individuals in the household. All right. Moving on to what was the most common field of employment for Pickens County in 2015? Retail, healthcare, agricultural, or manufacturing?
C.
C, healthcare. Actually, A, retail. And that's what the county and the cities all lumped together. So look at St. For Jasper, retail took the win there. Nelson got education, healthcare, and social services. That kind of lumps all those together. And construction and talking about. Any questions regarding that? All right, so unemployment rates for Pickens County, another good sort of economy indicator. What was the unemployment rate of Pickens County? Got some more recent data here. In April of this year, 2017. Any guesses?
D.
D. Sounds pretty unanimous with D. That is right. Very good. And one of the lowest in the region. We look at the region, 4.7%. Unemployment rate for Georgia is 5%. So a good bit below the state as well. All right. So what percentage of Pickens County residents obtained a high school diploma or higher in 2014?
C.
Going with C. 82.5%. Very good, nailed it. All right, so if we look in the region, graduation rate 77%, statewide 85%. So higher than the region, very close to the state. Kind of right there in the middle. So Pickens County graduation rate, 85.1% in 2014. And state graduation rate in 2014, 72. All right, Pickens County residents who are employed, how many work outside Pickens County? Go with A? A sounds good. Answer is B, 72%. So, we mentioned earlier Cherokee County. You got some surrounding counties that have a lot of, job opportunities and things like that. So, we see this in several communities. Haralson County, Richard mentioned earlier, when I was working on their comprehensive plan, had the same scenario because they were adjacent to Carrollton. A very population that was traveling outside the county to work, but traveled to the county to live. All right, so let's see, 55.4, so a little over 50% of Pickens County's workforce are not actually residents of Pickens County. So half the people working in the county are traveling from outside the county inside the county to work. All right, which of the following is not one of the 10 largest employers in Walker County? In 2014, I think, on this, so this may have changed by now.
Walker County?
Should say Pickens County. Sorry about that.
D.
Go with D. D. Absolutely. The answer is D. Got next to, I think it's in the Cherokee or Gordon County. Shaw, I think, has a base in both. All right, so now we move on into the survey information. And basically, we're just going to go through chronologically, basically, the information that we got from that survey. So one of the first questions we asked was, where do you live, just to get an age distribution of people. So you see Jasper has got a large chunk there. We've got the county cut into quadrants, so you've got a green area, you've got an orange area, you got south, east, and west. So you see blue, green, and orange. Those are your, and the purple up top there, North Pickens. So that is essentially your Pickens County area. You see a large portion from Pickens County, large portion from Jasper took the survey, and Talking Rock, we got a few from outside. In Cherokee County, we actually took that survey. So look at the next question is, we asked, are there children 17 or younger in your household? Purple is yes, blue is no. So 56% said no. How often do you use a service or buy something in one of the downtowns? Jasper, Nelson, Talking Rock. So we see the purple says very often. Got the kind of teal blue color there, often. And you see the other side. So you seem to be getting a lot of folks that are frequent in the downtown area. All right, what do you like about Pickens County? So I asked them to check all the following just to get sort of a balance. And what took the cake on this, of course, is what you might expect: scenic views and natural wildlife. Small town atmosphere came in second. Overall safe place to live came in third. Friendly neighbors, outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, hiking, etc. And on from that, good fire, police, EMS protection. So those are sort of the top, more popular things. Other things, Parks and Recreation's got a lot of responses. Variety of housing and career opportunities probably came in last there.
I have a question.
Yes.
On this survey, was there any way for you to pinpoint whether the people who were saying they lived in Talking Rock actually lived in the Talking Rock city limits, town limits, or that they just had a Talking Rock address?
Well, how we worked it was we just asked them to fill in that as far as where they live. We didn't actually have like a GPS or an address system tied into a cookie
on your website.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's right.
Well, the reason I say that is there are some people who have a Talking Rock address that are actually in the city limits of Jackson. And then the Talking Rock address goes into Gilbert County, and it goes to the west end. So there's a lot of people in there that could say they're from Talking Rock, but they aren't exactly inside the town limits.
Right, yeah, all the time, the post office's address systems and actual boundaries, corporate boundaries and things don't always line up, very rarely actually do line up anymore.
So these people could be in anywhere as long as Talking Rock is their address.
They could be, although I think if unless they're being, hopefully they would know if they're inside the city or outside the city based on, if they're paying taxes and things like that. I would expect them to do that, but they could have certainly, if their address said Talking Rock, just, click Talking Rock just out of reflex maybe. So that is absolutely a possibility. And I don't believe that survey system that we use had corrected, the cookie, I think it was mentioned, to straighten that out for us to know exactly.
That's okay. Mortgage companies don't even know because they send us, the city of Jackson, tax bills.
Well, you never know, y'all might pay one or two.
Oh, no.
Just joking.
No, this is checks coming to us.
Oh, well.
For the city of Jasper taxes.
Okay, so looking at, all right, so we saw what people like about Pickens County. Now let's see, what do people not like about Pickens County? Let's see, lack of entertainment, lack of local stores and restaurants, lack of career opportunities, population is increasing too rapidly, too much traffic, loss of natural scenic character, let's see, cost of living, inadequate public service, and lack of big box retail. So those are some of the more frequent responses there. All right, here's just a jumble of things for people to sort of fill in. And what we asked here were, where in Pickens County, including the cities in the county, would you take out-of-town visitors? And we asked this question, we got a lot of different answers, a lot of random answers. And you know, we took a tally of per, you know, if it was repeated twice, we took a tally of that. I think you can see that information there. So we had some folks that actually mentioned some things that were not inside Pickens County. So we went through and Richard kindly looked at some things and made a few corrections to that. So the information in front of you is much more accurate, and you can sort of see there. So you can see where people's favorite places to go, and obviously, you know, people are proud of their community. They got something around town, and when people come in and out of town, you want to take and kind of show people around and show them how great great the town is. So we see some of the bigger words there showed up more. You know, restaurants, things like that. Of course, Tate mentioned shows up in there. Talking Rock. Some people just mentioned, you know, going to the cities. So there's just some scenic areas there as well.
So is that our actual word cloud for the survey?
Yes.
Can we get a copy of that? Do we have a copy of that?
Sure. I'll get anybody who wants. I'm gonna pass a sign-in sheet around in a moment. Anybody who wants to receive any of this stuff, I've got it all digital. I can send it in Word format. I can send you PDF. I've got cards up here. Please reach out to me. I will send you all this information, and you can have that for your own use. So we got another generated piece here. In 3 words or less, we have people to describe Pickens County. So the words we see there, the larger ones, of course, the ones that showed up the most. So you said, yeah, I think we see a lot that said small towns. The town showed up a lot. Beautiful, safe, mountains. So we see a lot of different responses there. All right, now we ask the question, what kind of place would you like Pickens County to be in 20 years? So, see a small town shows up again. See a lot of friendly, quaint, fun, thriving, restaurants. So you see a lot of different aspects there. A lot of good positive things there. All right, now we ask, what could the community leaders in Pickens County, the cities within the county, do to make the community as a whole a better place? So we see things generated here. Of course, people use phrases and things like that, so it kind of skews the words a bit. But you see growth. Some people said stop the growth. Some people say promote growth. So we see those pop up a little different. Of course, entertainment shows up. Jobs, businesses, people, growth, taxes, schools. Probably the funniest one, I just want to point this out, the elephant in the room. I don't know if anybody can read it up there. Can anybody read just the way it reads? The word phrasing, as I looked in there in the data, says stop drugs and things like that. The word drugs is used several times again. So in that world, as you read that, what could the community leaders do to make Pickens County a better place? Well, the answer there is drugs. So that's a fatal flaw of the wordle there. Sometimes the word association doesn't exactly work right. But if you actually look in, we have the information. I can, again, make that available to anybody. And it's basically broken down just like the sheet Richard gave you where it says, this many people responded to say this many people responded to say that. But I think you see mainly there, growth is one of the larger aspects that they want to see addressed. So, that is all of this presentation.
Oh, let's see, did you do the 12th one? What types of projects would you support?
Yes, what types of projects would you support?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is two-sided.
We asked what types of projects would citizens support
to improve
the leaders
things,
to improve. And what Richard's passing out now, you can sort of see a quantification of how many people chose some of those different ones, but infrastructure and things of that nature.
You see the backside really shows you the percentages. You can see a little better of what, at least the 743 responses here, what the people who filled that out said that they would support for improving the community. And you may see some surprises on the highs and the lows. Sometimes it's good just for us to take a step back and throw out questions like this, because what we in a bubble may think about our community or where we work, shop, recreate, eat, things like that, may not be exactly what a majority of, at least folks who respond to a survey, think, believe, do. You know, there were even a few people who said, where would you take out-of-town visitors? Walmart. Or, you know, I mean, there were some surprises, you know, but different people have, you know, different opinions. But the top vote getter on where would you take out-of-town visitors, you know, was the scenic parts, was, you know, the Burn Mountain area for either driving or hiking or walking or the lookout, things like that. And, you know, hopefully this survey can give you a glimpse of not necessarily, okay, based on just this survey, let's change everything that we've ever thought of, but are there some things maybe that can be reconsidered, that can be tweaked, and, you know, possibly.
Make a comment. The land trust, the federal national land trust, which has the Mountain Conservation Trust of Georgia here, headquartered. Everywhere they've been, the number one thing, if you ask people what they want, is they want more parks and trails. And that's the number one thing, what's tied with more businesses in just about every area, part of the country.
Thank you, Richard, for mentioning that. You made some good points. Some good points I might have overlooked there. Another thing is, as we look at projects and we start talking about projects and sort of directions, one thing to understand is that during this process, one of the reasons that we make this plan is not just to, you know, the main thing is to get people like we are today in the room, talking about what's going on, looking at trends and about, you know, what folks out of the community are saying and feeding back, and to get governments working, you know, sitting down at the table, get people from different parts of the county sitting down at the table. The other part of it is sort of the carrot and the stick from the feds and the state for us to have a plan, a good plan, is that there's a lot of grant money that comes from the federal government, from the state government, and it makes a lot of projects possible, especially in smaller communities that don't have very large budgets, to basically make improvements, to make projects that wouldn't otherwise be possible. And the better plan that we have, the better likelihood of being more competitive for that state and federal money as projects arise and county and cities decide they might want to reach out and apply for one of those grants. So I think now we're getting to the point in the agenda, we're getting towards the end of the meeting for tonight. So general comments, we wanted to have a period. You guys heard a lot from us, just based on what you've heard tonight. And, you know, what you had an idea of when you drove out tonight, you had any sort of thoughts about what's going on, something maybe that you want to see addressed. Let's maybe talk about that. And I may write a few of these things down just to quantify what we're talking about.
I have just a more general question, and that is, how was this survey distributed? Who had the opportunity in Pickens County to complete this and submit this?
That is a very good question. What we did was we used a survey provider as an online service, and we basically created a link that somebody could click. It would work on any phone, any computer, and that was put up on, I know it's put up on the county website. Some of the cities might have put that up as well. There were also hard copies that were distributed to some locations that people could pick up.
Right, the newspaper was
Yes.
very kind to put the entire survey, which was great because we had some folks who were between 70 and 90 who came in, gave me that and said, I would not have filled this out on a computer, so thank you for having this. So we tried to have it available in different ways.
Chamber of Commerce, we put it on our newsletter for multiple times. One other source.
Mary, wasn't it on your website? It's on Doug Pickens as well.
I think one of the things that shocks me the most is all the conversation that we have about promoting tourism in this county, and tourism this and tourism that, and that's going to be the savior of the county. And number 6, and where you're going to take people, is nowhere. You're going to go out of the county. And something's got to give on that, because in spite of the talk, we're not making very much progress in that direction.
Was anybody surprised that over 100 people responded that they would take out-of-town visitors to different areas right in town Talking Rock as opposed to Jasper or scenic areas or anything? No. That's good.
I'm very proud of that.
that.
We've worked hard for that. And one thing that has helped us with that is we fought for over 20 years to get signs on 515, and we finally did that last year. We got a big brown sign that says historic downtown Talking Rock with a picnic table emblem and the creek, and we have seen an increase just from that. And believe it or not, there are people in Pickens County who do not know about our park. And we have one of the prettiest, I'll put my park up against anybody's in the state. I really will. It may be small, but it's beautiful. And it makes a difference. I mean, we take pride in our town. We need more businesses like everybody else.
That's a
Yeah.
great part to take in.
Yeah.
My granddaughter loves it.
So, I mean, but that's the thing, and word of mouth is what has helped us the most, and I think, I'm of the belief that if you give people an opportunity to come in and see what you've got, if you let them know that you're there, it's amazing at what can happen. We've still got a lot to do, but I'm very proud of that number right there. For a little town of 65 people, to pull that off, we did good.
So one of the big tourism things historically was a scenic route to get them off 515, go up 136, and then go up toward Amicalola. So that was one of the things that years ago we thought was going to happen here, and it didn't for very specific reasons. But
It actually did.
well,
136.
not on the scale that we had tried to do it, Cheryl.
Well, I think what happened was there was a great program out there, because I got a copy of it right before I went out of office as mayor. And the state, and I think you could still get it, it was just a matter that I don't think any of the cities picked up to promote it, but there was an information packet, and along with a disc that you could put in your car to drive the 136 route, the old Federal Road, and it was awesome. But I don't think anybody, it just kind of died out. I don't think anybody picked up on it and actually promoted that, here's this, you have this opportunity to do this.
And we don't have any signage for Jasper to speak of talking about any kind of scenic routes. And also, of course, our roads coming into our city and leaving our city have been up in the air for quite some time. What the big project is really going to look like.
Yeah.
But anyway.
For the survey question that talked about what improvement projects were preferred, are there some that may be a little higher on your list that scored lower, or some that are a little lower on your list but scored higher than you would have thought?
I was kind of surprised that there's not a link in the general survey taker's mind of preserving historic downtowns and land use permitting, land use zoning. that may be my nerd land planner brain not making that connection, and I'll own the nerdy part of that. But I was surprised that if we don't that people don't putting into place protections for historic downtowns and the look of the historic place in with their land use. I was surprised that there's an obvious gap there. That just surprised me. It's not a statement either way.
So you need to go back and read our old comprehensive plan about that very thing,
Oh, yeah?
and then walk downtown Jasper and see if we're living up to what our comprehensive plan says.
Okay.
Because it's clearly in there. It talks about historical buildings, talks about mirroring the current historical architecture and the new development. All those things are in our own comprehensive plan, specific to Jasper.
Specific to Jasper, the
Right.
Jasper comprehensive plan?
Well, no, it's one comprehensive plan.
Okay. Are there zoning and architectural restrictions within Jasper that are unique to Jasper?
No, we're working on it though. I mean, it's being talked about, not worked on, but talked about.
At least we don't have the blue building to kick around.
And it's awful hard to give directions, as I
But
like.
it can be blue again. If Luke decides he wants that building blue, he can walk out there and paint that building blue.
I had somebody the other day that got confused when I said the old Chevrolet place, and I said, they thought I was referring to the one on 515, and I said, no, you gotta go back further than that.
It's the one on 53, man.
We're about as bad as the big chicken.
I think one of the things that surprises me is they think we need more parking in downtown. You don't have to walk to the block after you park your car to get anywhere you want to get. We've got that big parking lot over there, and I don't know why we would need more parking.
It's kind of boring, but we're gonna have, one of these days, we're gonna have to talk about our infrastructure, both in the county and on the city side, but,
By that we mean revamping, repairing, or increasing on that infrastructure, like we're doing all infrastructure as far as utilities, roads, whole 9 yards.
Yes, sir.
And that's across the board for everybody, right?
Yes.
Because the only people who have a sewer treatment plant is Jasper.
And Big Canoe.
Yeah, Big Canoe.
Yes.
I mean, Pickens County doesn't have one.
They have one, they don't.
Which is for the small portion.
It's not really. Okay.
All right, so infrastructure, big thing to work on. That's a big bite to chew. I mean, there's a lot of facets to that. So you're saying there's umbrella, everybody, you look at infrastructure. And I think we can see that same trend everywhere. I know it was across the state, across the country. They saw it in Flint, Michigan this year, things like that. You know, everybody's working on their infrastructure, especially the older the cities, the older the utilities and all that, the more they're looking to revamp and improve those things. So, yeah, we can definitely dive into that detail.
So 40,000 people you're talking about by 2050, so, I mean, it's kind of silly to have duplications of some things.
So tell me this.
Get that camera off.
I'm not sitting anymore.
Well, if you don't want duplications, then the city of Jasper needs to enlarge their treatment plant so we can all use it.
We're getting ready to do that.
Actually, that's happening.
Awesome.
Ethan,
Bring it
Yes,
our
sir.
way.
in the course of the plans and so forth, there's numerous other documents that are referenced in specific areas. For instance, the water supply issue, sewer supply issue, both were studied at one time in the last 10 years, I think. Where are those plans available? You know where they are, Richard?
Everything we have, yes, sir. You know, I'll be glad to get you a copy of it.
I'll write you a note.
Either way, sure.
I'll come
Hard
by and look
copy,
at it.
email, sure.
When we just brought up the subject, maybe we brought up the subject of consolidation, so I don't know if we did or not. But one thing you can remember about this area, the county as a whole is very small geographically. So that is an advantage if you were to follow a path such as that. It's more doable due to our actual size. just wanted to look at that.
Well, it's something to that point, looking at increasing population, existing population densities and development, is something to look at. You know, so all these things are sort of related as we start to work in this. Everything's going to kind of start to intertwine together as we move forward. One of the things to look at that helps with that infrastructure is to look at, you guys have zoning, of course, and to talk about in zoning and land use densities. How, you know, of course, the health department has a certain amount of regulation in that as far as, you know, people putting in septic tanks that don't have the opportunity to hook up to sewer. But deciding, okay, if, let's just say, for instance, 5,000 people, 5,000 aliens landed, I think is what I've heard before, and they got to have somewhere to live. All right, so you probably got some vacant properties and things like that that can be infilled. But once you run out of rooftops to put them under, they're going to have to build roofs. They're going to have to build houses, and you got to have, of course, you talk about roads. You got to have the water. You got to have probably the sewer in certain places where the density is higher. And obviously, wherever your sewer goes, that's where the density is going to follow, where it be commercial, industrial, or residential. To get high density in any particular area, you got to have sewer. You got to have a capacity of that sewer, which I've heard some talk of. So those are all things we can look at, even in regards to that, is maybe to plan where future infrastructure is going to go based on the densities that the county and cities are going to allow in particular areas, to focus on where that infrastructure needs to go that may not exist right now, and also maybe assess the damage or the areas that are in most dire need of replacing now, some sort of an inventory basis. And I'm sure that a lot of that's already, you know, the folks, especially boots on the ground, already know a lot of that. So it's just a matter of us putting that in this plan on paper. And
So there are different strategies for getting that infrastructure to where we want the population to go and how we pay for it? Because, I mean, of course I know the answer, but, you know, one of the things that we've done that's kind of limited us is the fact that we rely almost exclusively on the developer to pay for the services that we provide. In other words, in order to get the services there. Now, we didn't do that over going down the racetrack. We kind of gambled on that and made it, but, you know, it's kind of a, something maybe that a lot of the citizens don't know about. And I don't know if this is the forum to kind of bring that out to the surface, but, you know, it's one of those things that we really ought to have out and talking about. The fact that somebody has decided that if we want to develop our infrastructure, we want the developer that comes in to develop the property to pay for the development.
Like an impact fee.
Right, or additional cost of construction fees. So, sorry.
Right. No, very good point. Very good point.
Ethan?
Yes.
In this county, we have redundant services provided by the county and cities, particularly with Jasper. And that doesn't lead to stabilizing property taxes. We have an opportunity, I think, and a number of people feel this way, that we can stabilize property taxes by combining services which are now redundant. We have 4 or 5 water systems in the county, including some private ones, a city and a county water system. There's no reason for that. We have duplicate, overlapping public safety departments.
Okay, I think part of that, I have to look into it further. I think part of that discussion is sort of umbrellaed under what's called the service delivery strategy.
Yes.
And that's where that's going to be assessed at. And that is, it's a parallel process to our comprehensive plan, but it's not necessarily part of the comprehensive plan.
Sure.
And myself being from the regional commission, we can't really sort of mediate. We could sit down at the table and talk about things, but we can't provide saying this is what you should do or shouldn't do.
Is there a state law that says that there has to be a service delivery agreement?
Yes. Well, as part of what, glad you brought that up. I forgot to mention it earlier. It's another part of this state mandated stuff since 1989. It's part of what they call qualified local government status. And basically we call it QLG. And that's what the state looks at to say qualified local governments. You have a up-to-date comprehensive plan formally adopted. and you have a service delivery strategy. Those two run parallel. So when you update the comprehensive plan, you're going to be updating that service delivery strategy every 10 years. So you want to have both those documents in place. There is a timeline attached to that, and you have to have them adopted by that time. Now, under certain circumstances, extensions can be granted, especially when it comes to service deliveries, because that is a real tough scenario in a lot of ways. There's a lot of details that go into there, and it can have long-term effects because you're looking at 10 years when you lock yourself into that service delivery strategy. So, you know, it's a big deal, and it's a thing that takes some time. But that is all part of that qualified local government status. Why is qualified local government status important? I mentioned earlier state and federal funding, also state and federal permitting. You can't get any of that unless you have this plan in place and you have that service delivery strategy up to date. And so that's sort of the, again, that carrot and the stick of getting down and hammering those details out. I want to mention something real quick. I know it's getting late and people didn't plan to stay real late tonight. So the next meeting, what we want to do with that is we want to do what's called, some of you probably heard of it, SWOT analysis. Assess the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of Pickens County. And what I'm going to do is we're going to section off everybody into folks from Jasper, Talking Rock, Nelson, and the county. And that way everybody can sit down in their little groups. We can all sort of have just kind of informal discussion at those tables. Of course, you know, Richard and I can move around, and you know, people can, you know, welcome to ask us things and stuff like that. And what we want to do is kind of assess what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, specifically across in different areas. Infrastructure. What are your strengths in infrastructure? Weaknesses. What are threats in infrastructure? Move towards housing. Land use, as we talked about earlier, is going to be a part of that. Then ordinances, whether they be environmental criteria. I'll have a colleague come in to speak about that once we move into that section of the plan. But just to talk about next time, just to assess at 30,000 feet, sort of what we call the needs and opportunities. And that's why we're going to figure out what you guys need. When you start writing down strengths and weaknesses, threats and opportunities, we can decide what needs and what opportunities Pickens County has. And then in the following meetings, we can sort of start to narrow these things down and start to get some quantifying data. The data we saw today, again, was from just the general population. You guys being the stakeholders sort of have shown a vested interest in the project, and we'll hope you'll be back for that second meeting. Rich, what was our time on that? Was it August?
So Tuesday, August 22nd at 6:30. Really just another Tuesday at 6:30. Tuesday, August 22nd at 6:30. And like I did for this one, I'll give y'all plenty of advance notice, you know, kind of a 1 month reminder, 1 week reminder. So hopefully that'll work. And then specific to what we just talked about with the service delivery strategy, I'm coordinating that, which is really a current snapshot of, you know, this is what it is compared to what it was 10 years ago. And I've sent the information to some of our local government representatives, but if you didn't get it and you want it, then please let me know. It's public information. And I'll be glad to work through that with you if you have any questions or whatnot. That'd be great. And so again, we got our date and time, Tuesday, August 22nd at 6:30. And, you know, I guess, you know, we can keep talking on a one-on-one basis, whoever wants to, but thank you for your time. We're adjourned.